Lois with Aussie Lozzie Knit Designs. Today I'm going to be walking you through part of my color and texture play baby blanket. It is the slip stitch middle section of the pattern. I just wanted to create this tutorial to kind of walk through the transitions that occur there in case anyone had any questions or any problems, and we can really look at what it looks like when it's knit, because I think there may be some questions. So I want to first of all thank you if you tested it or if you purchased this pattern and are working through it. Thank you so much, and I hope that you enjoy knitting it, and I hope that whoever you give this blanket to, even if it's your own baby, that they really enjoy it. So let's get started. All right, so here we are looking at the color and texture play baby blanket, and I'm gonna walk you through this slip stitch section. So we finished the grill stitch section at the bottom, and now we're doing the slip stitch section. I know on my sample I used a yellow and a yellow variegated yarn, and so what was missing from the sample is this this straight line across in a solid color. And so when people are knitting it with that straight line, they're like, I don't think I'm doing it right, but you are, and it's fine, because what we're going to end up having, let's look at just this side, and then we'll look at the other side, is that contrast color 2, and for me, is this light yellow color. And yes, it goes all the way across here, but then my contrast color 2 has a solid line going up. And then when we close out this stitch section at the top of this, we're going to have this line again. So it will be symmetrical, and so don't worry about it. And so let me just kind of slide this through. So we've got the contrast color 2 here, and then we've got the middle section with the contrast color 1, and then the end cap again is contrast color 2. So again, it'll be that solid line up. So once we do all of that, I think it's gonna look just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and start knitting the linen stitch, and I'll probably zip through that for you guys so you don't have to watch that. And I'm mostly going to be focusing on the transitions, but we're also going to take a look at how you can read your knitting so that you can do this section a little bit faster and not get confused. All right, so we're coming to the transition, like I said. So I need to move my stitch marker. All right, and this is what I mean by learning how to read your knitting. Okay, because it could be that you get to this part and you're like, oh no, what do I do? Well, all we have to do is look at the previous rows, and we can see that contrast color 2 is going all the way across. So we know that we need to just knit all the way across with contrast color 2. Then we don't have to think about it too much because we read our knitting, and we don't have to keep looking at the pattern for the instructions. I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing that, looking at the pattern, obviously, that's what it's there for. But I know that people were feeling like this section was especially difficult, and they couldn't maybe like watch TV or do other things while they were knitting, and I don't want people to feel that way. So I'm just giving you this little tip. Hopefully it will help you. So if you've used the stitch markers and set them up the way the instruction said, then you never have to worry that you're going into the next section and that you'll miss knit, because those stitch markers are going to be in your face saying, hey, you're in the next section. You are not knitting the same way as you previously were. Okay, so here we're coming up on the stitch marker. All right, here we go. So I'm going to go ahead and slip my stitch marker over, and I'm entering the middle section of the slip stitch. So you'll see that this is the opposite of what we just finished, where my contrast color 2 is making the solid lines. Now this one, my contrast color 1 was, now contrast color 2 is, and this one is just putting little bubbles in. So all we have to do is keep those same lines. See how solid it is? So we're just knitting into every other stitch. And we can see that the first one needs to be a slip because we have that solid line. All right, and so then we're knitting the next stitch and slipping and knitting. And the great thing about this pattern is that on the way back, you're just gonna knit into the stitches that you knit, and you're gonna slip the stitches that you slipped. And that's the beauty of mosaic knitting, is that's exactly how it works. We knit the knit stitches and we slip the slip stitches. And that's all there is to it. You can just read your knitting and all that out. All right, so then we just continue knitting like so. There you have it. All right, and that was the slip stitch section of my color and texture play baby blankets. If you have any lingering questions or comments about this section, please feel free to leave me a comment below, or you can reach out to me. The pattern does have my email address and I will respond to those right away. If you would like to connect with me further, you can follow me on Instagram at Aussie Lazy Knits. I have a Facebook page, which is Aussie Lazy Knit Designs. You could follow me on Pinterest, Aussie Lazy Knits, or you could subscribe to my blog and newsletter, www.aussielazyknitdesigns.com. If you enjoyed this tutorial, hit the subscribe button and like it. Thank you so much for watching, and happy knitting!